My name is Corey Miller, and I'm the Executive Director of the Cabbage Patch. And so I'll be the host for today's session. And this afternoon, we're going to be focusing on how the patch offers STEM, and that's science, technology, engineering, and math programming. And as you all know, it's an important part of preparing our members to consider careers in these exciting fields, and for a lot of other reasons too. And to share these details, we have Miss Megan Levine, the Director of Programs at the Patch. So now, without further ado, Miss Megan.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm really excited to be talking to you all about our STEM program today. Normally, this would be a conversation led by some of our educational specialists. Mr. J and Miss Rachel are kind of our experts on STEM at the Cabbage Patch. But as most of you know, this is camp season, and camps are ridiculous. We have one more week of camp after this. So it was a time that would be difficult for any of the programmers to step away. But thankfully, as they are wont to do, the education specialists educated me on our STEM programming and how to share it with you all to make sure that you understand all the great things kids are getting out of STEM here at the Cabbage Patch. For us, STEM is a holistic year-round program for our members. This is because we see the value of it, and that a lot of our kids, a lot of our members are going to be folks who would normally be underrepresented in STEM categories. So we have about 50% young ladies that hang out with us every day. We have about 85% kids who are African American, and these are both areas where they're minorities in STEM fields. So we want to encourage kids to get excited about STEM and really get them thinking about the potential for education and careers in STEM categories. So Corey, if you'd go ahead and pull up, hey, there we go. For anyone who is a Star Trek fan, I picked this because it reminded me of the Borg. It makes me pretty excited. So just to give a kind of an overview, the recent Pew Research Center study showed that despite making up more than 13% of the US workforce, African-American workers actually made up only 6% of STEM workforce. So that's definitely an underrepresentation. And we know that with programming like ours, we're going to help to build an appreciation for subjects for STEM with our young people. And that's going to help prepare and encourage them to pursue careers in fields that will provide economic stability, fields where their populations are generally underrepresented. So Corey, if you'll go to the first slide, we're going to break it down piece by piece. So S is for science. And science is all about empowering kids to ask why and how questions. STEM will provide students, science education in STEM provides students the opportunity to explore and have their imaginations come up with really creative solutions. We're trying to build curious students with our science education. And we want to have students who are invested in that education and push forward with it for innovation and discovery. So you can see here a couple of our activities day by day that are related to STEM. And you might be saying, how does seed to table gardening connect to science? Of course, science, how things grow, how things develop, how our bodies take in nutrition and use it to power us, is all about biology, all about science and plants. Our outdoor exploration, we're not just taking the kids hiking or canoeing, we're teaching them about the plants they're seeing along the way. We're teaching them about water health and how it affects our ability to go out and have fun in these places. And of course, with ACT Prep, we're trying to build science knowledge in general, science literacy for our kids to help prep them as they're moving toward college. Go on to the next section there for me, Corey. Thank you. So this is kind of the why is it important? Why does it help to do this? Science builds interest in a core academic subject. There is a large, most of you are aware from other conversations we've had, but there's a big achievement gap between low income and high income kids in key areas like math and science. By making science, which can seem kind of lofty, kind of complex, we're making it with our hands-on programming real and accessible for kids. Science seems doable when they're hanging out with us. Science seems like something that's fun and that's interesting. And that means that we're really building connections with kids between themselves, the natural world around them. When a kid in one of our programs plants a garden, They get to watch it grow and thrive. That means they're developing a deeper connection to the world. They're learning about plants and insects and birds that live in and use our garden. And that really develops an interest that they can carry into their home life. So we saw this recently during the pandemic. Several of our regular young gardeners came to us asking for pots and seeds and instructions on how to keep growing stuff at home, how to grow the food at home. We know from our family development department that the need for food rose almost, in some cases, 400% in a month over the previous years, the same month. And so we know that food was inaccessible. We know that food felt concerning for a lot of our families. And we were able to take these kids who knew how to grow things. We provided garden box kits, small starter plants, and we were able to provide families with fresh spinach, tomatoes, herbs that supplemented all the things that they otherwise would get from our food pantry. So it's not just something that the kids learn and it's high ideals, it's practical things that they can use in their day-to-day lives. In fact, two of our young ladies remembered an animal science lesson we did on chickens and how they could be good backyard animals. And they convinced their parents and a few other neighbors to invest in a small coop that ended up providing much needed protein to the families during the pandemic. Some kids just wanted to tend flowers. You know, sometimes it's just a little bit of hope. It's good for your mental health as well. And so we had, you know, the added benefit there. They thought they were just getting some nice flowers or some good plants and herbs, but we also know that we were getting the added benefit of oxygen production, cleaner air, which just contributed to helping to make those families healthy. So our science-based programming, while it can seem, it's very hands-on and it can seem like you're just learning biology, you're just learning ecology, you're just learning plants, you're really learning a lot of good, solid skills to connect to life and just make life a little better for the kiddos. So we'll go on to the next section. T is for technology. So we all know that, I don't think we have to tell any of you all that technology is increasingly essential in the world we're living in. All of us who are right here now on Zoom instead of sitting around the table at the Cabbage Patch know how much technology can affect our lives day to day. Again, I know we keep talking about the pandemic, but I think we all saw during COVID when we had to move to Zoom meetings, when we had to work remotely, when we had to rely on internet and wireless just to get our kids their basic education, that an understanding of technology is going to be essential, increasingly essential for kids. So STEM education, technology education, students are taught skills they use in the real world. That's going to motivate students to learn, as they know that the skills they're acquiring when they sit down with us, say in coding class, when they sit down with us during the computer lab, when they sit down with us for NTI, that these are skills that they're going to go out and use right now. They're going to be utilized immediately and in ways that really can positively impact them and their loved ones. Some of the technology education we did early on during NTI meant kids could go home to their parent who maybe had a child who wasn't old enough to come to us, and they could show parents how to use the technology they needed to really get that kid connected to support services and to school. We had one young man who came to us in one of our middle school pods. He learned how to connect through Google Drive and Google Classroom, went home and was able to help his dad connect through Google to his workplace. So he was able to support his father in doing his work because he came to us and got a good solid sense of what the technology entailed. So we're really, with technology programs, looking for the ways to teach kids the ability to adapt their knowledge to new and novel tasks, which is only going to help them as they enter back into school, they enter the workforce, and they enter an increasingly interconnected world. So we can go on to the next section, Corey. So in terms of, again, that practical application, how's it helping? We see that with technology, oops, sorry, lost my spot here. There we go. We're introducing kids to the careers of the future. We're improving digital and safety and security. A lot of our kids are spending a lot more time online, not just because of school, but also because that's where entertainment is now. You stream all of your content, you know, not a lot of people having cable anymore. There's a lot more social media access for kids. And while that's really great and helped to make sure kids were staying connected during COVID, it can also be a really dangerous thing if they're not sure how to use it safely. It can expose them to predators. It can expose them to bullying. Kids can be really awful in person to each other, let alone when you get the anonymity of being online. So we're teaching kids to be safe when it comes to how they're interacting with technology and how they're interacting with other people on technology. All right. Next, please. E is for engineering. Engineering sounds, if you're not familiar with it, kind of big and scary and very complex. But really, when we are teaching kids about engineering, what we're really just teaching them about is the power of technology and innovation. We want to make sure when kids encounter new technologies, that they are not afraid of them. They're ready to jump right in. They're ready to ask questions and learn. So we use things like Technology Club, Robotics Club. Our Kidgineering Camp, which is coming up next week, is always one of our most popular. That's when our little ones, ages 8 to 10, really get introduced to robotics and coding and engineering for the first time. And then we also do some practical application of engineering through things like our biking program. We're not just teaching kids to ride the bikes, we're teaching kids to service the bikes. We're talking about how all the interconnected gears and spokes and chains blend together to actually make the machine run. So we want kids to feel very hands-on with it. A big reason for that is that for a lot of kids, engineering can seem inaccessible. There was a recent study by the Partnership in Education and Resilience from Harvard Medical School that showed that out-of-school STEM programming can have a huge impact on building interest in engineering for kids. Low-income kids especially have less access to complex machinery, have less access to being able to see engineering at work. And it showed that if they are involved in a program like ours, 70% of the students in STEM programming like ours showed an increased interest both in STEM careers and a strong improvement in the 21st century skills that they're being taught at schools. So we're really reinforcing the things that schools are saying they're needing to succeed going forward. So Corey, you can go next, please. One of the great things about STEM in terms of how it helps is that we already mentioned high paying careers, and that's important, but right now we are building resiliency and creativity in our kids because chances are when you encounter new technology, you're gonna misuse it. You know, when you encounter something new, I've already had to log on and off to this Zoom 3 times to try and get my webcam together. Technology is complicated, it's frustrating, and you're gonna make mistakes. What we teach kids when we pull them into engineering programming is that it is okay to fail. Failure is a learning exercise in these programs. And when kids get introduced to that here in a place that's safe, into failing, into not succeeding in the first time, into having to do it 3 or 4 or 5 times, with an out-of-school program like ours, it's not connected to your grades. It's not connected to whether you're going to pass to the next class, the next lesson. It's just about trying it and learning something new. So when we engage kids in the ability to fail and to fail successfully by trying again, it's a safe space for them to learn that failure is a part of a process. It's a part of a process when you deal with anything in life, but especially new and interesting technology and engineering. And ultimately, failure is what leads to success. Thank you. So last but not least, we are talking about math. You may wonder, why would math even really need to be reinforced? Aren't kids all getting math in school? But the thing about teaching math and STEM programming is that students should have the opportunity to receive high quality math instruction, regardless of where they are. They should learn challenging grade level content. They should be supported when it's necessary to be successful. But we talked earlier a little bit about the achievement gap. And math is one of the areas where the achievement gap is actually strongest. Low-income students, on average, can be 3 to 4 grade levels behind their more affluent peers when it comes to math. And a big part of that is differential instruction in schools. Sometimes that's a matter of, does the child get identified early on as struggling and thus get pulled back? Does the school have access to enough teachers, enough high quality teachers, enough tutors to support kids when they need additional help outside of the traditional classroom hours? So while every kid should have access to math, programming like ours is still essential because it is able to take kids who would otherwise be struggling and help to boost them up, again, in a way that is safe, a place that's non-judgmental, that really is about encouraging each kid individually. So we do that through a number of programs. Our ACT prep, again, takes the higher level kids, the college-bound kids and our teens, and really pushes them to increase their knowledge of math, help to make them ready. Our math club, believe it or not, we do have a math club. Some kids just really like math, which we love to see. Encourages kids who maybe really are excelling in math to push their boundaries and to try new and exciting things. Financial literacy at the Patch has always been a huge thing and is part of teaching kids the mathematics surrounding money and investment and saving, getting ready for college. And the one that might surprise some people, that wouldn't surprise Miss Fish, I think, if she was on this call, is seed to table cooking. Some kids who do not want to sit down and do math will sit in the seed to table program in the kitchen, and they will count out and measure their fractions when it comes to putting in 1/4 of a cup of sugar. They will multiply when they have to make a recipe for 2 people, fit 6 people. So they'll do math in that way and in that space when they wouldn't otherwise. We joke around in education that means we're tricking the kids into learning, but we're okay with a little trickery if it means they get it down. Again, how is it helping? We're reinforcing core subject area skills. We're reinforcing that math. By doing that, we're helping to close that math achievement gap, which otherwise, schools don't always have the time and the capacity to do. These programs can really supplement the education kids are receiving at school and help to improve their abilities in math. And that will tie into all the other STEM areas and honestly, all areas of our lives. As much as kids say, when am I ever going to use this? Math is one of those things that we all do every day on some level. So this math reinforcement becomes really, really important. Right. So we've covered a lot that we do with STEM, but one of the key things about STEM is that we absolutely could not do it by ourselves. Again, just like schools were limited, the Cabbage Patch is limited. We're limited in what our staff know and have access to. We're limited in the ability to demonstrate things live and in person in real time. So we rely on a number of community partners to really help us with our STEM programming. The folks listed here are just a few. I'll pull out a couple to talk about. That first one there is Samtech, a local engineering firm over in Indiana. They gave us a huge grant to really start building up our STEM programming a couple of years ago. They bought robots for our kids. They bought Ozobots. They bought coding classes and training materials. They really made it so that we could take a program we enjoyed and take it to the next level to really support kids in a special way. Jefferson Community and Technical College are not only becoming a partner for us when it comes to our college scholars, we're encouraging more of them to consider the lower cost options that are involved in Jefferson Community and Technical College, and also their access to good paying, high quality technical jobs that are only going to increase in importance over the next few decades. But they've also chosen to become a partner in STEM education for our younger kids. We took our teen leaders there this year, and we took our science camp there this year, just to see some of the complex machinery that we'd never be able to bring into the Cabbage Patch on our own. And there's something to be said for seeing a kid's eyes go completely wide when they see gears larger than they are turning. It's amazing. Jefferson Memorial Forest has been wonderful to us the last couple of summers. You can see here 2 of our kiddos making forest soup as they're learning about some of the science and biology contained in the forest. And then a number of other partners like Louisville Grows and Norton Family Foundation, who are helping to support our Seed the Table program, which again may not seem the most intuitive way to teach STEM, but really gets kids engaged in hands-on learning. So you may be asking, if we need these partners so much, how can you help us? At least I hope you're asking that. We really want to reach out and see if you're interested in finding a way to connect to our STEM programming. The first thing we always ask of folks is volunteer with us. If you're really skilled in math, if you're skilled in science, we need you even at the base level of doing tutoring for our kids when it comes to going back to school. August 11th, they'll be back in class and they'll be back with us in the evenings, needing help with homework. And especially higher level math and science are a challenge to really support kids. So we want those people who are interested in science and math education. Likewise there, if you're into the cooking and the gardening, come help us, join us in our cooking program, join us in our gardening program, and help make STEM hands-on for kids. That second part, connect us to new partners. You know, we found out about the Louisville Grows Garden Grant because one of our board members, or one of our staff members, is also on the Soil and Water Conservation Board. That grant came out that way. We don't even know what opportunities, what all options are out there for us to enhance STEM education for kids if people aren't telling us. So connect us to the engineers you know, connect us to the schools you know, really get us built into some of these places so we can further expand STEM. And tied into that is offering field trip opportunities. Again, I said we can teach kids in a classroom and they can sit and work through problems on, say, physics, but when they actually get somewhere that they can go and see machineries and see friction and see how it impacts momentum and how it impacts speed and velocity, that is an invaluable learning opportunity. The more we can make science real and hands-on and accessible for kids, the better they're going to learn it. So we really encourage you to help us find cool field trip opportunities for our kids. So that's what you've heard about today, is how our STEM program, how we are connecting kids to science, technology, engineering, and math here at the Patch. You've heard about how those programs become hands-on, how they help us build real-life learning skills for the kids, 21st century skills that are being pushed at schools, how they teach life skills like resiliency and teamwork, and how our programs enhance the school day opportunities for kids by making these STEM programs both more hands-on and more individual, more personal for our kids. We really hope that you'll choose to join us in this STEM endeavor as we go off into the future with our kiddos. And I'd welcome any questions you all have.
A comment I want to make for the whole group, because the STEM program, obviously it resonates with me, but there's a factor I hadn't considered until I saw it at the Patch. One of the things I was looking at is really seeing what we can do at LG&E as far as co-op opportunities for our college scholars, because I mean, that picked my career for me. And LG&E has a lot of non-engineering co-ops, so that was part of the conversation. The part that I did not expect, and now you can look at the numbers and see how many college scholars that we've had since we started have gone into engineering. I suspect the answer is 0. And the reason I heard in a particular case was because a lot of these kids, they're just barely getting their head around going to college. They can't imagine they're smart enough to go into engineering, which we all on this call know that's baloney. You're smart enough. You just have to set the elevation young enough to understand that you're capable of it. So that's where I see this STEM program as critical. And I think you guys are doing a great job, but that's where it pays off. Is these kids are going for degrees and we're cheering that they're going into college, but they can be going into much tougher majors than they are if we're preparing them right and setting their expectations right. So
I have one question, one comment, and the question is, when I think of STEM education, I think of computers, and how are we set at the Patch in terms of making available to our kids enough computers that they can get on these things and learn the computer skills?
Yeah, there are very few blessings that came out of COVID, but that is one of them. When we realized that we were having to pivot to NTI with our kids, and that meant accessing all of their education digitally through Chromebooks. We had a donor who said, "What do you need?" And we said Chromebooks, and they supported us in buying a bunch of new ones. So we had 50 kids on site for NTI, and we made sure that we had enough Chromebooks that any of the kids who lost theirs, broke theirs. The ones the school gave were not very high quality ones, that we were able to supplement that. So we have on site at this point, I think, more than 30 Chromebooks, which, given that our programs usually range between 15 and 20 kids tops at a time, that's easily accessible for us.
Tell me more about the University of Louisville Medical School.
Yeah, so a few years ago, the University of Louisville Medical School reached out to us about including our kids in some of their summer medical education camps. So we had already decided we wanted to do some sort of like careers in medicine camp. We connected with U of L and they got our kids in, and the kids would spend half the day at the U of L Medical School and then the other half of the day with us. So they were doing things like they were able to take the fake skin and do incisions and sutures. They were able to do testing. They learned CPR on the real reactive dummies. So it was a really great experience for our kids. Unfortunately, the connection we had there dropped off a few years ago, but thanks to our College Scholar program and our reconnection with U of L, we're also getting reconnected with the medical school. And we're hoping next summer to offer a camp like that again.
Okay.
We've also had some of their folks come in. They taught our CPR and first aid classes for our teen employees this year. So they helped us out in that way as well.
Is Samtech still involved with us?
Mm-hmm. We're still reporting to them. We were in the process of doing field trips and visits to them as well when COVID hit. So now that we're back into fall, we're reaching out again, and we're hoping to get down there to their plant during fall in the STEM clubs.
Good. And then, of course, the Parklands, we're getting some field trips out to the Parklands of Floyd's Fork now, aren't we? With you and Curtis.
We are going out there again next week during biking camp to make use of some of the trails. We didn't do as much outdoor education with them this summer because they had a lot of things already pulled up doing their own stuff. But we are making use of the trails and connecting with them during our biking and outdoor explorers camps.
Good.
All right. Well, thanks to everyone for your time on a Friday afternoon. And just remember, as David said, we have recorded this Zoom and it will be on our website under Stories and News if you want to encourage others to listen. And our next Cabbage Patch Donor Zoom update will be August the 20th, and we will be sharing information about the partnerships that we have with our College Scholar program. So thanks again, everybody. Hope you have a great weekend.